sessions that what we'll be looking forward. Session 1, where unleashing AI for the recruitment success from ATS selection to the inclusive hiring, and session 2, the role of AI in reducing the unconscious bias in hiring. So I would like to give a brief introduction about the session 1. Now, AI is having a very, very pivotal role in our day-to-day life. If we just talk about like it is helping in multiple ways across multiple dimensions, enhancing the convenience, efficiency, and also in the decision making. Now, when it comes to exclusively, when we talk about the recruitment, how AI is helping with respect to the recruitment, it is reshaping it by making the overall process faster, smarter, and very efficient. So today we are having some of the industry experts with us who will be sharing their insights in the overall process. So I quickly would like to take the opportunity to introduce them for the session 1. Mr. Vishnu Dev, he's the HR leader and partner at EY People Consulting, with almost 20 years of work experience in recruiting, sourcing, and executive search. With a very rich background, including the leadership role. Also, he has been in the leadership role with LG's group and the Manpower group, and has played a very pivotal role when it comes in reshaping the entire talent strategies to drive the organizational success. So welcome, Vishnu. Quickly, we'll move to our next panelist. Thank you so much, Vishnu. Quickly, we'll move to our next panelist, Mr. Mohit Marwaha, who's currently working as the Vice President, HRBP and TA at Niva Bupa Health Insurance, with a very, very strong expertise and background in BFSI industry, and with a proven track record in talent acquisition. He has been into the leadership role at NIIT, Apollo Munich Health Insurance, and IndusInd Bank. So welcome, Mohit.
Hi, thanks everyone. Thank you.
Quickly, we'll move to our next panelist, Mr. Govind Raj, Vice President of Talent Acquisition at Epexon, with almost over 2 decades of experience in recruitment and workforce management. He has been in the leadership role at SLK, Wipro, and iGate, where he has successfully implemented resource management and talent strategy. So again, I would like to pay sincere words of welcome to Mr. Govind Raj. We'll come to our moderator, Mr. Alok Nidhi Gupta, who is the co-founder and CEO for Talent Recruit Software, with almost 22 years of expertise in founding and scaling ventures across finance, legal, and technology sectors. A leader with a very deep vision into the global recruitment and as a tech leader. So welcome, Alok.
Thank you, Pallavi.
And our moderator, Mr. Aditya Chalke, who has been a dynamic business development leader with extensive experience across IT, FMCG, and HR industry. He is currently working as the national sales head for Talent Recruit and playing a very pivotal role when it comes to the overall strategizing the entire business. Welcome, Aditya.
Thank you, Pallavi, for the warm welcome.
Yeah, so would like to extend a very warm welcome to all our panelists and our moderators, and to all the members who has taken the time out for this session. Quickly, I'll move to Mr. Alok. I'll request Mr. Alok to take it over from here.
Thank you, Pallavi, for a warm introduction. And I'm seeing that we are hitting 100 number people currently have joined, and I'm sure the period of time people will be joining more. So first of all, let me once again extend a very warm welcome to our panelists for the session 1, Vishnu Dev, Mohit Marwaha, and Govind Raj. Thank you very much for being part of this session. As you know, this is a very significant movement for us in Talent Recruit, as we are celebrating 10 years of our existence. So we take this opportunity to thank all our well-wishers, industry professionals, our friends from the industry, customers and users who have reposed faith in us and trust in us as we have been transforming the hiring process across industries, across geographies, enabling organizations to hire right, faster, and at reduced costs. So we have very exciting sessions today. And the first session, that is the use of AI for hiring and from ATS selection to inclusive hiring. So you know that we have been transforming as a nation, and if we see last 10 years or more so, HR has been always considered as a support role in the past. And of course, with the last 10 years, we have been seeing a significant wealth creation or value creation as a nation when we have jumped to being the fifth largest economy in the world. And we've seen the significant transformation of function of HR from becoming a support to strategic function. If you look at it in the past, when we look to see how HR or TA heads have been using the technology in their hiring process, the most of the decisions were taken by their colleagues sitting in the finance or the CFO or CIOs when they decide to acquire the business applications, maybe SAP or Oracle, and they used to go along with the HRMS platform. With the change of time, when we see within the HR functions, the talent acquisition has been becoming the most significant and more challenging day by day as organizations have been recognizing hiring talent and getting talent right has been the significant position to see themselves when they need to scale as an organization. If we see various studies, be it from PricewaterhouseCoopers in 2000, when they almost surveyed 650 HR IT leaders talking about the biggest challenges within HR function, where 58% people have been talking about their biggest challenge has been hiring the talent. And similarly, from KPMG study, 65% CIOs from 85 countries citing the biggest business threat is not able to hire the right talent at the right time. And we see similar studies which talk about the challenges in hiring has been a significant challenges, for across organizations, right? So let me look at my first panelist, Mr. Mohit. So Mohit, first of all, a big congratulations to you on your successful IPO of Niva Bupa. I'm sure you are going to create a lot of wealth, amongst your investors across the world. So my first question, yeah. So congratulations once again to Mohit, who has been one of the very strong TA leader I've ever seen and come across. He is very, very aggressive. If you know, guys, he has been driving the TA function in Niva Bupa, where he's hiring more than 5,000 professionals in a year and driving, not only the hiring with a program called Hireright, we're not only the right hire, but also seeing that impact coming to retention as well in significant manner. So my first question, straight question to you, Mohit, is that with hiring becoming the biggest business challenge today and a focus on candidate engagement and AI-driven tools, have we seen a shift in decision-making power towards HR professionals? And how are HR or TA leaders balancing this newfound strategic influence with business needs like ROI or other hiring metrics?
Good question, Alok. First of all, congratulations to Talent Recruit team for celebrating the 10 years. And I think our journey with Niva has been pretty decent the day we met. I think AI plays today a very important role, and I'm a strong believer, and I keep on saying that banda is equal to dhanda. Unless you have a right manpower, you can't grow, right? And talent is very important for all the organizations across all industries. AI plays a very, very important and pivotal role now because gone are those days when recruitment teams were sitting, CVs were coming, we were screening, wasting our time. Today we can say that it was actual wastage of time because these days, if you talk about Hireright program, I think which Alok has been talking about, with us at Niva, Hireright program, our hiring is very scientific this year. So 2020, we were around 2,500 employees. As we talk today, Niva is 9,000 employees strong, and we are a publicly limited organization. We have gone through a massive, massive hyper growth stage, and then we realized that a lot of time goes into screening of CVs, etc. So we have built a Hireright program. The Hireright program starts with the success profiles or CTQs, critical to quality parameters, which are again screened by AI. HR has no role on those. So we have to identify post-focus group discussion and job analysis survey, what works for us at frontline levels. Entire process is very streamlined. The CV automatically, the moment it lands into ATS, there is a The ATS is integrated with the Python simulator. The scores come there, and the recruiter today focuses more on sourcing and increasing the effectiveness onboarding of the candidate than rather than sitting on Naukri.com or every day discussing with consultants and spending hours and hours and times in calibration. So I think AI has gone a long way there. Fortunately, at Niva, talent has not been a problem in terms of manning. We have been ensuring that we are at 95+% hiring, but I think ATS AI plays a big role, and it's going to be playing a very big role with us at Niva. And I'm sure any organization where there are certain still organizations when I discuss in the BFSI space who doesn't operate on ATS, I think everybody should quickly get onto ATS because there are a lot of other factors rather than digitally bringing recruitment on board. There are a lot of other AI tools wherein you can quickly screen people, get the interviews done, get the shortlisting so that TA today is productive rather than sitting on Naukri and sourcing their time is spent on effective onboarding as well.
Great. I think you mentioned about Banda means Dhanda, and very well said because Desi terms, nothing well can explain the significance of talent you need to really acquire and retain. So thank you very much for that. As you understand that the transformation has been helping significantly, HR to be being positioned in a very significant manner in an organization. If you look at Russell 3000 index figures where we see during 2000 to 2020 to 2022, there has been an increase of number of board members from 1.1% to 2.7%, a massive increase of 146%. The new directors who have been inducted by the organizations are from HR fraternity. So it means the organizations are, keeping HR into the decision-making process as they understand hiring has been the biggest.
That's because Alok, primarily HR has gone a long way now. It's about business partnering to not only profit but losses as well. And as a HR function, it's gone are the days when we were not considered as revenue generators. We're actually revenue savers now for the organization because your recruitment involves cost, your HR business partner involves cost in terms of engagement, etc. And you see a lot of technological advancements are there in HR business partner space as well, even maintaining our talent, managing the talent as well. Right. So I think we have gone a long way as a HR function, and we are definitely contributing to a lot of top line and bottom line. And hence you see a lot of CHROs being CEOs now of different organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. So kudos to you running such a successful program. And I'm sure the way the Niva Bupa has shaped up, and brought to the position where your IPO has been recently launched. I'm continuing to see that greater success to you and to your program. So all thanks to technology, what you are incorporating to really drive your hiring program. So as we understand that we have been seeing that adoption of technology is the key for hiring success. So I come to Govind Raj now because who has more than 30 years of experience and one of the most experienced TA leaders I've seen in the industry, especially into ITS domain. Of course, Govind, you have been driving the global talent acquisition function in Apexon, and your teams have been spread across different regions, be it North America, Europe, or Southeast Asia. So when we look at in the perspective of technology into the hiring space, with the growing aspirations of the Gen Z, who are the larger part of talent acquisition process within the organization or across the organizations, and the changing recruitment landscape or dynamics when we're talking about the diversity or diverse workforce management that includes not only the perm employee, but contract employee or gig workforce, which is going to be the massive contributor to the overall workforce for the organization in coming years, And today, when we speak about the technology as a ATS, applicant tracking system, the organization looking beyond ATS that has the capability, one with respect to engagement or relationship management process that provide through the technology process. Another part is with respect to the capability to address the geographical challenges increasing data privacy and security challenges as well. So Govind, in the past, we understand that you have been using separate ATS platform in India and different part of the world, especially North America and Europe, which posed the challenges in aligning with the unique hiring process, specific to the each geography. So when you decided to search for a unified platform that could probably cater to these regional hiring process while addressing the complexity of global recruitment, data privacy, security. So what were the key criteria or metrics that guided that guided you throughout your selection process?
Thank you, Alok, and congrats for your 10 years.
Thank you.
And it was nice. I think I've been associated with you guys for the last 4 or 5 years now. It's an interesting journey so far. Yeah, and I wanted to thank Pallavi for making me younger and saying 2 decades. And you corrected that. I wanted to correct that and say 3 decades. So I started recruiting when there was only paper. There was no internet. There was no ATS. We now heard of something called ATS, right? Over the years, the whole landscape has changed, right? From paper recruiting, where we had box files, no processes, everything was manual. And now everything, we are trying to automate everything. So coming to Apexon specifically, I've been with Apexon for about 4 years. Today, we are an organization which is more of an amalgamation of 5 different companies in both India, US, and Europe. And each of these entities have their own processes, and systems. They had 3 different systems across the globe, which we wanted to unify. One of the asks from the board was to create one Apexon, which was basically creating a company with one culture, one way of working, and having similar systems across most of the functions that we have. That's where we started looking at. So when we initially started, like you said, rightly said, we had about 3 or 4 ATSs in different companies. We slowly brought that down to look at one of the platforms among those 3 or 4, right? Instead of going out, we said, let's stay with one of the platforms that we already are using in one of our large organizations. We used that for about a year and then realized that's not serving our purpose across geos. And that's when we started looking for new platforms. And some of the criteria that we really looked at, I think one of the main criteria was how do we create an unified dashboard across the organization and not geo-specific or vertical specific, right? So it should be a common platform which gives us a view of what's happening in recruitment, being a very core function, right? And that's where we looked at what ATS can help us do that. Where most of our recruiters, like we rightly, Mohit also rightly, we want recruiters to be spending time on recruiting rather than churning MIS dashboards for various users in the organization. So that was one of our criteria where we wanted executive dashboards and MIS in there. We wanted a platform which was flexible across geos, which took care of the data protection laws across geos, which allowed us to be legally compliant in those geos. That was another criteria that we looked at. We wanted a platform which had AI capabilities within that, so that allowed us to free up our bandwidth to do core recruiting. And usually when organizations try to cut cost, one of the places they cut cost is manpower and TA. Right? So we have less TA folks to do more work, right? So that's why we wanted to automate as much as we can so that our folks are able to do more than what they currently do. Right? So that was one of the main criteria. Another criteria that we looked at was the integration with other systems. As we started integrating all the systems, we had one HRMS platform, we had one PSA platform. So we needed an ATS which allowed us to integrate with these platforms. So that integration was a key factor that we had to look at also. So these are some of the, and one, of course, every geo had a different workflow, a different process. We need a platform which was flexible in being able to cater to all these geos, right? Sometimes it's not just the geo. Within a geo, you'll have verticals which have different processes. You'll have clients which are slightly different process in there, right? So we wanted something that was flexible to create different workflows, different processes for these, and as well as meet our goals of common dashboards coming out, MIS coming out for people to look at.
Perfect. I think very well said. I think Govind, when you really drive the function in different regions and how you need to look at a technology that can really make sense to bring the uniformity at the same time, elasticity and scalability to match up to the expectation of different region. So as you mentioned that interoperability or integration, so today when we see the SaaS platform, emergence of SaaS platform over the last 4-5 years, the organizations are able to see the seamless integration across different products and technologies they use into the organization. And that provides a massive value to everyone in the organization, especially to HRs or TA functions, that they look to take the platform that best suited to that particular function. And that's the value chain that is being created constantly. So I'm sure that going forward, you will see more interoperability being brought in. So coming back to from your discussion with Govind, now let me come to Vishnu. Vishnu, you have been into the industry for more than 2 decades. I've seen you working in the other side of the table, offering solutions to HR as a leader from staffing, recruiting, RPO business solutions to now joining EY as a partner in people consulting division, where your role is not only take care of the people consulting divisions scalability, but at the same time to drive one with respect to the technology transformation, another part with organizations like yours drive the DEI, the diversity and inclusivity. So when we look at today, the organizations have been becoming more conscious about not only with respect to the diverse workforce they hire, be it contract workforce or upbound workforce or gig workforce, but at the same time, the driving diversity and inclusivity in their hiring process. So Vishnu, you know that data plays critical role in understanding and improving hiring metrics. Do you think that modern recruiting technology platform provides sufficient insight to help organizations measure their progress in driving diversity, equity, and inclusive hiring? And what specific features or metrics should companies look for to ensure their platform support DEI goals effectively? Your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Alok. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, absolutely, very much.
Perfect. I think the discussion is on technology, but just to verify whether I'm very clear and audible to all. Yeah. So Alok, it's a pleasure being a part of this webinar. All the more because I think you've taken up a very important topic of discussion, which all of us in the recruiting industry across, whether we are a part of corporates or staffing organizations, I think adopting technology as a part of our recruitment process and to ultimately not just increase efficiency, but more than that, to get your people story right in your organization, right? A lot of organizations still suffer because they don't have their people story right, right? The right talent has to be present in the right place at the right organizations, right? So hiring right and getting your people story right is very important. And now the use of technology is very, very critical, which a lot of us don't understand and are still comfortable with the manual ways. So glad to take on a topic like this and be a part of this discussion. I'll come to DNI a little later, Alok, but before that, what I also wanted to say is that, the workforce dynamics today has changed a lot, right? I was just reading some data points that, almost 65% of the Gen Z take decisions, all use technology to take their decisions, right? 65% of Gen Z uses technology to take their decisions. Today, it's only around 25% of our workforce, which is Gen Z, right? But we're not realizing that, the Gen X and the Gen Y are aging. And very soon you will have 50-60% of your workforce, which is going to be the Gen Zs, right? And if that is how they think and that's how they take decisions, right? It's important for all of us to get acclimatized to adapting more technology, whether it is ATS in recruiting, AI in screening. I think it's very important. I think APAC itself has one of the least penetrations when it comes to ATSs, if you look at it globally. So I think from that regard, this session touches upon something very, very important, right? I think what the first aspect we need to look at is that does technology or does an ATS help implement an organization strategy, right? It's not about using technology just because you need to look at efficiency alone. But when you have organization strategies, when you have things that are core to your organization, does the technology enable you to implement and get that strategy rolling in your organization, right? And the fact is that there is a lot of technology that is actually helping implement your organization strategies a lot better, right? And for example, there are a lot of organizations that want to move from a job-based organization to a skill-based organization, right? There are multiple things that the companies are doing to get the people story, the mix of skills, and how their organization is set up when it comes to people correctly, right? And using technology to ensure that happens with less bias is something that most of us should actually start getting used to, is what I would say, right? Now, to touch upon the D&I aspect, right? I think when you hire people into an organization, right? As Govind was mentioning, compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago, when we left it to the judgment of different recruiters and people who are hiring, a lot of communication, of what the organization leadership needs doesn't actually trickle down to the last leg of the recruiter who's hiring for you, right? So you're dependent on what the recruiter's judgment is. Today, the good thing about a good technology or a good ATS is the fact that you are able to do an outreach and look at attracting talent that actually fits into your organization's need only, right? And whether it is in terms of creating a very clear success profile of people who normally succeed in a particular organization or a particular industry, right? Now, and then aligning your recruiting strategy with that success profile, which is working very well in your organization, right? Technology can help you do that. Technology can help you have a very focused outreach to people who are a part of a success profile of people who are already very successful in your organization, right? Now, DNI is one part of it, right? And let me tell you, DNI is also a very, very important part of organization getting their people story right. A lot of us feel that when we think about DNI, when we talk about, the women in the workforce, when we talk about, contractual workforce, or when we talk about, different ethnicities, veteran hiring, when we talk about people with disabilities, a lot of organizations talk about this as a strategy, as a recruiting strategy, as a people strategy, right? A lot of us still feel that this is probably a CSR initiative or an activity, Actually, it is not. Diversity hiring is done by most organizations because people from different backgrounds are actually more successful in a particular role than the rest of us are, right? So it is directly linked to a business strategy. It's directly linked to productivity and outcome. So when you look at DNI, when you look at hiring women for particular jobs, it's not that you want to increase your diversity of women to 45, 50%. It's because women are actually more successful in that job than you are. They spend more time on the job than you do. Their attrition is much lesser. Their productivity for that particular process or role is much higher than you, right? So we need to realize that when we talk about DNI, or DNI is one example of a strategy, of a people strategy, which a good ATS can help you get right. Now, how does an ATS help you? For example, you need to have something that we call I think a diversity report. Different ATSs have diversity reports where they can clearly screen based on backgrounds of people, right? Whether it is not just women, whether it is people with disabilities, whether it is people from different ethnicity. We can even go to extents of people in particular age groups, veterans, right? Screening is actually done in line with a pure diversity ratio that you want to maintain. Now, that used to be a struggle when done manually. It used to be a struggle when done manually. So I think organizations, if they actually can look at the diversity reports and do screening for a particular mix of diversity they want to maintain using technology, I think it is very, very effective, right? And I've seen that having a direct impact on the organization's productivity as well. So my bigger takeaways here is, I think all of us need to get used to, adopting more technology in the recruiting process. more than the tool, it is about, I think that the adoption is a lot lesser. I see most people possibly use only 20-30% of what the tool can actually do for you, right? So I think the education that we need to give is you need to actually play with the tool and use it a lot more. And you need to show them how more adaptability of the tool using 60-70% of features of technology, whether it is an ATS or even interviewing bot, voice enabled bot, to show them value and how that is actually helping them get their organization strategy right. And that is when people will want to use it more and help their organization through technology.
Yeah, I think well said. So I think there are a couple of things I think is a great points which you have put forth. One, of course, the strategy for the organization to hire right, but at the same time, people's story need to be right because it's both way around. Because you need to create not inclusivity when you look at the perspective of organization, but also at the perspective of the people who have been hired. As you mentioned that Gen Z is going to take over, more than 50% people. Now people are tech savvy, they want instant communication, engagement, instant results, and they are very much impacted or influenced by various external factors, and the experience they receive during the hiring process makes them to take the right decisions which they feel. And that's the reason organizations are willing to use technology not only into searching right, but also engaging in a right manner. I think Mohit has some point of view. Like to mention something?
I was just reading the messages and there is a very beautiful question written by Blue Recruitment Personnel Limited. I don't know what's the name. I've read the entire message. I don't know what is the person name, but please, there's a small difference in ATS and search engines. Please understand. We are expecting that we put up a JD. The JD goes and the bot goes and searches JD for us. Please understand, technology with human beings, without human beings is nothing. Number one, human intervention will always be there. If we take an Indian example today, sorry, somebody want to say something? Okay. If you see, it's a very big question. I see you are struggling with the kind of sourcing you're doing from ATS. Look, the interview process, if you want to have a standardized results, all processes need to be standardized. Whether it's the way JD skills are coming in, how is the CV coming in, what are the comments, etc. Until unless you are not standardized, you'll not get those standardized sourcing. Second, even Naukri.com for that matter have their own ATS. But if you upload a CJD and you don't get those profiles which are relevant to you, right? You'll have to screen them. A human aspect will always be there. ATS function is you have to see it with the larger landscape view, with the larger horizon, because that's not a search engine. That's one answer I wanted to give. Second, somebody asked, Murugu has asked that, can you share an example of how AI has helped you or the organization make a better hiring decision? Again, I'm saying at Niva, we have a hire right program. So Henry Fayol gave few principles of management, and staffing is one of them, which says placing the right guy at the right time at the right place. That was recruitment is all about. Now, how to make that right? So hire right is one of the principles with us also. We have seen a very big change in terms of the CVs funnel coming in and the kind of first level shortlist which comes. Earlier, our trend was, example, we were selecting one guy out of 10. Now we are doing 4 out of 1. So only 4 CVs we see and 1 person gets selected. Please understand, screening 10 CVs, coordinating the interviews, the recruitment team spend a lot of time, which have been saved by ATS. Now, ATS, N number of ATS are there in the market. You need to understand which one suits you. For us, our first requirement was, there was, around 15, 20 years back, NASCOM meeting was there and Paytm, Mr. Sharma was there. And he showed somebody that I want to do X thing on mobile and people were smiling. He said, I want to do everything on mobile. I want to make my payments on mobile. And, that was the vision. And with this vision at Niva, we started that I want everything on mobile phone, which I told my sourcing team. And with Talent Recruit, this was possible. Otherwise, with a lot of ATS, I've seen when anybody goes in the market to hire ATS, you go and obviously you check out 3, 4, or maybe more than that ATS. And we also did that. So that helped us to a great level because with Talent Recruit, we get everything on mobile today. Data is secure, everything is there. So I think AI, yes, plays a very big role, and that's how we have been benefited in terms of shortlisting. Second, it has given a big impact to us on our early attrition because BFSI, normally the attrition levels are usually high. Early attrition is also high, but we have currently good trends coming in because we implemented Hireright in the month of April this year. We had a pilot batch we started in October, but the trends are very, very positive on early attrition. Though too early to say, but I'm sure the way it goes ahead, it is very good. Second, also coming back to blue recruitment, what happens when the ATS is there, you're able to capture everything digitally and it helps you to build a single source of truth. Now, SSOT, if you talk to some of the analytics guy, it is very important. The way data, where is data coming from, and whether the source of data is right, because your analytics, which gives you a forecasting, it will come from ATS because you're punching in all the data points at all stages, whether that's sourcing, level 1, level 2, level 3, etc., etc. So ATS there plays a big role. I think I've answered two biggest questions which were there.
Thank you, Mohit, for taking up those questions. I think most of the questions have been answered. If anybody want to add from the panelists before I hand over this to Aditya to take the next discussion with all of you guys, over to you, Aditya.
Thank you very much. Alok, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you. I would like to welcome everyone again, since I have the floor. In continuing in the same vein, I think Mohit touched upon very beautifully with regards to the challenges, and he, I mean, basically also has been talking about the Hireright program within the Niva Bupa, which has helped them grow from, I mean, to grow to a workforce of 9,000 employees right now. And obviously, the implementation of that program has played a pivotal role in achieving that. Uh, Considering, I mean, the challenges that you just stated, and AI has helped you overcome them. If you could just elaborate on a few more areas that you faced in designing and implementing the Hireright program. And we heard a couple of insights from you with regards to how AI-driven platform has helped you in addressing those challenges. But maybe if you can elaborate more on the challenges itself that you had encountered. And what role, I mean, how much of a role AI has played in that? And obviously, if you can touch upon a few measurable outcomes or insights, that would be a sort of a great outcome for the audience that has joined us here.
So I think Aditya, thanks again. Challenging, yes, it was a lot of challenges were there because we didn't have an ATS earlier, and once we have grown as a corporate dinosaur, the mindset of recruiters number one, and to bring them on something from a manual space, from emails to tech platform, is very difficult. So, and I'm a strong believer in life that problems happen because of two reasons. One is no communication, and another is miscommunication. So what we said that let's get back to our recruiters, let's tell them what is our vision, because what happens. 90% of the time, the policies, procedures gets built up at the strategic level and leadership team, and then it is given to other people to just execute. But we involved our entire HR team and key leaders in what we wanted to do. So Hireright is a program name. Hireright has 4 or 5 pillars, and technology was one big pillar. Success profile, success behaviors, interview process, and then technology. Technology was one of the biggest feature we had, and we had been communicating to all at all times. I ensured my talent acquisitions head ensured that at all intervals, my HR business partners ensured that all HR town halls, we are focusing this. And buying from management has to be there because you can't work in isolation, right? So, and telling them why this is important as well, because I'm again saying ATS is not only an ATS. You have your own data bank. Tomorrow you want to run your different campaigns. Once you have your own, say, 20, 30 lakh CVs in the system. I'll give you a beautiful example how we are leveraging it right now. We're going to campus. So we have Talent Academy as a vertical with Niva. We have been hiring for the last 4 years. Now our vision is changing that we want to build our own talent. We don't want to go to the lateral market in coming years. We want to build our own talent. We want to build our own leaders. So we have different programs in campuses also. We have next gen programs specifically focusing on FLS. We have young leader programs just focusing on certain leaders. Today, even if you are going to campus, you won't imagine each and every CV of the candidate is punched on ATS. I've been after Alok's and everybody's life. Why I'm doing that? And the first question which came to from my campus said, so why do we need so many CVs which are coming who are applying? I said, this is your future talent base which is with you. Because these guys, if don't get hired with us, they'll go somewhere else. But you can run campaigns once you have this data. And that can happen easily with the help of ATS. Now, coming back to challenges were there. As I told you, we were very conscious of this. And change management as a process, unfreezing, refreezing, all that happens, right? But all time we were able to maintain communication. We were able to go back to leaders with database decision making. That if ATS, why? And it was backed by data. Once you go by data, that it will give an a delta of, in terms of cost saving, attrition saving, faster recruitment, faster onboarding. That's where the buying comes in when you talk their language. So I think those some challenges specifically we were facing on the recruiters front because they didn't want to. It's so difficult for them, right? So we told them that the way you order on Swiggy, I assure you that recruitment on ATS will be that easy. And hence I wanted everything on mobile, and Alok, an entire team had been very supportive to all of us. Today, you won't imagine whenever we go to campuses, we do a recruitment workshop. So we're going to IITs tomorrow and day after. Uh, as we speak, there are recruitment workshops happening where we tell them how to, learn to use ATS. These recruitment workshops, we have given half an hour, we finish in usually 10 to 12 minutes. It's that easy the way it has been built up, right? So that's how it has been easy for us and difficult at the end of the day. But I think once you have implemented that, you are very strongly thought that we want to implement in ATS, please stick to it for some time. Holding on to the vision is very important because you'll have noise, you'll have signals. It is you who have to, as a leader, understand you want to stay with signal or you want to go with noise. So we stood with signal, and thankfully we are at a place now where we are able to leverage. And every day, I think we are after Alok's life. That Alok, what is new, what is coming, where can we, have more engagements? How can we do that, etc., etc. You won't imagine that in my previous organization, when we wanted to run campuses, we had to buy some other module because not every ATS is agile. I just picked up the phone and I told Alok, I want this to be done. He said it's done, customized, dusted. That's the ease, right? That's the ease of technology today. And please understand, technology is run by humans only at the end of the day. So I think those were quick challenges and how we addressed, and that has been a success with us at Niva. What was the second question, Aditya? Or I have answered
Yeah,
the
so
questions.
you've answered it. So basically, the part second and partial question was, the major outcomes or insights that have come from the program. Any measurable outcomes and insights?
So see, today we have been able to, outcomes was purely, if I talk in business sense, our early attrition has come down. So every attrition has a cost. If an FLS leaves us, it's 120, it costs us 121% of the salary. At a mid-level seat guy leaving us gives us a 200% dent on the cost. So early attrition has come down. We are able to track productivity. We are able to track the interview effectiveness right now from the Hireright and ATS program, because our interview process is very robust. So we have situational based, which is competency based interview with functional. So functional, we're not capturing, but we're capturing scores at all intervals. We are capturing scores from all assessments. And after every 6 months, so it's been 6 months now, April, we had implemented Hireright. The entire analytics team dig the data from the ATS, and we again put it into our modeling technique, build up, because you have single source of truth coming today. Otherwise, earlier it was on mails, Excel, and there was no single source of truth which was coming. And you were more on the gut feel of what people come and say, oh, this is not a good guy, this sector is not doing good. Today, you have realistic data with you. And there are times, when with ATS, a lot of dashboards coming across. I don't know how it has been, but we have been very strongly using the Power BI technique, wherein we today know when does the recruiter has shared the CV with the hiring manager, whether this is within the TAT or not, or whether the efforts are getting wasted, etc., etc. These are very small things which gives a very big impact at the end of the day, because every recruiter has its own TAT. which is turnaround time to close the position, understanding red flags. And today, your Erica bot also, which helps us, because the bot is continuously engaging with candidates. It also gives you a red flag. And earlier, the recruiter had to be in touch with the candidate, call, guesswork. I've dropped a message, the guy has not replied me back in one day. This might be an early warning sign that the candidate is dropping off. But today you have everything coming across data. So it becomes very easy for recruitment team also to get that offer talent, making it an onboard talent.
That's really great. I mean, and this is something that would help other leaders and other members who have joined the session to understand how measurable the change has been. So moving on, talking about, I mean, from the challenges that you faced while implementing the solution, and my next question is to Mr. Govindraj, is with regards to, in a similar way in itself. I mean, just to addressing, because Alok also touched upon it earlier, with regards to the role played by leaders in understanding the platform, taking up a solution when they earlier used to accompany CIOs, CTOs in terms of taking up the platform. Now they play a pivotal role in terms of selecting the solution. But we also have seen challenges in adoption with the users at the ground level, so the recruiters, right? So, I mean, would want to understand from you, say, the platforms that have come in, have you observed a shift in the leader's role merely from a decision-making role to be an active champion of adoption and optimization? And what possible best practices can you suggest in terms of a leadership-driven adoption?
Yeah, thanks, Aditya. I think I'll need AI to answer some of your questions sometimes. That's pretty long. Yeah, but I think what Mohit mentioned, very insightful. I think Mohit is a much advanced stage of implementation of talent recruit. We have just started the process. We are still at UAT and taking it further, but I would like to reach where Mohit has reached so far in using the platform. It's exciting to hear the capabilities that the platform gives to them, and we'll also be adopting a lot of that. Yeah, coming to your first part of the question, saying that are leaders just doing decision making, or in much more depth usage of, or much more into depth in creating that adoption. So which, yeah, in a way, leaders not just making the decision, they also need to be advocates of the reason they made that decision, and push that with their teams on how that adoption of that platform is going to be useful to the users, right, at the end of it. And the reason that, the decision making has also come to leaders in the particular function is the increase, because these ATSs are very flexible. They allow organizations to tailor the systems, right? So, and that's where the leader can add a lot of value in terms of how is the whole system going to be tailored along with this team. So it's not something that the leader does by himself, but getting the team involved in actually customizing the whole platform, right? There's also a lot of data-driven decisions that the ATS platform allows them to do, right? Which is not just the leaders level, but at the team leads, at the recruiters level. That is it. And yes, like you said, the user adoption is basically something. If the leader uses that for making decisions, then you will see the recruiters and the team leads below that making sure that they use the product and not just use their, like I always like to say, the best ATS that we all started with is Microsoft Excel. Right, so we need to come out of Microsoft Excel into products that allow us to use our time more effectively. And I think some of the best practices for leaders to do to drive that adoption of the ATS is basically being involved from the start, right? Not just at the decision, involved from the start of implementation, being available to communicate the vision of why we are going in for the ATS. So there should be a clear communication of benefits to the users of why they're not in the old days. It was right. We were asked by CIO, you have to start using XYZ tool, whether it's an Oracle or a SuccessFactors or whatever that tool is. Today, it's a clear communication of what are the benefits to the teams, to the hiring managers, to the recruiters, to the interviewers. What's the advantage of using that tool? If that communication is not there, then people will think that they've been pushed into using a tool which does not add value to them. So those are some of the things. And then making sure that this continues, there has to be a training and support which is given to them. There should be a ownership saying that, encouraging all leaders at all levels, saying that they have to train their team so that people use this tool. Finally, the investment made the organization, what we have sold to the organization to invest in a tool, needs to show those output at the end of it.
And I think that pretty much summarizes in terms of obviously expectations that have been set up have to be met for successful adoption. That's very well
I made
put up.
notes. I made notes, a lot of notes when Mohit was speaking. So I'm going to catch a look and make sure that happens at our end too.
Sure. I understand that. He's been one of the early users, so fair enough. So my next question is for Mr. Vishnu. I mean, we got wonderful insights from you with regards to, the percentage that Gen Z will occupy in the workforce going forward, currently how it is, right? And we also got insights from Mohit as well with regards to how artificial intelligence has played a role in their workforce strategy, how in terms of engagement, how it has played a critical role. So, in your experience, we would also want to understand how AI can play a role in assessing and screening candidates, and uh, how can it contribute building effective and engaging candidate interactions throughout the hiring process.
Sure, Aditya. So there are two things, right? One is how it plays a role in the top of the funnel assessing and filtering of candidates, right? And then at a later stage, we talk about engaging with candidates, right, through technology. So broadly, there are these two things that we're talking about when it comes to use of technology and AI, right? See, at EY, when we solution for customers, we normally use a lot of different tools when we solution, right? Alok and Talent Recruit is one part of the tool that we kind of experienced in one of our large solutions, right? And that's the reason, I was happy to talk about it, right? I think, one of the main things, when we consult for clients and we help them design their recruiting strategy and processes, right? And when we are helping them implement, one of the most important things is, selecting the right tool or the right ATS, for the entire employee life cycle, right from identifying them to onboarding them, and then ultimately when they move out of the organization. There are two reasons why you need good technology, right? One is to improve the experience for a candidate, because they're experiencing the customer, they're experiencing the brand, the company that they're going to work. They're actually experiencing it through a technology, right? The first touch and feel for a lot of these candidates who are going to be your future employees in your organization is through that technology that they interact with, right? So it's very important that you get the right technology that gives not just the recruiter a great experience, but even the candidate experience right from the first touch point. So I quite like that point when somebody spoke about maintaining the entire talent community of people who've already applied, keeping them warm within your tool, because that is a community of people who you can keep soft branding with and who can still be a part of your organization at a later time, right? Otherwise, you're again going back to search engines and bringing those people back into your system. So a good technology can actually help you engage consistently with a talent community that is relevant to your organization, right? I'm just going a step back before answering your specific question. Right? Now, coming back to the use of AI, as I was telling you, there are different, right from a recruiting stage to an onboarding and learning stage, right? To employee engagement when it comes to even health and well-being. There are bots which communicate with employees. There are questions that pop up sometimes. Are you feeling? How are you feeling today? And based on their productivity, you have technology or bots where you can actually interact with. And they give you solutions and ways and means. So technology is being used through the entire life cycle, of an employee in an organization today. But what I'll probably talk a little more about is purely the the recruiting part of it, where one, I think in the assessments, I've seen huge improvements when you use a proper ML, AI ML, for filtering candidates in line with the ideal success profile. So you have a top of the funnel of say 5,000 people who apply to you, right? Bringing that down to a 500 or an 800 ideal candidates. That first level of screening, which actually would involve close to 5-10 different recruiters, can be done through technology, right? And in a very unbiased way, in line with a success profile that you've created. So that assessment I've seen being done very flawlessly. Post that being done, when you come down from a 5,000-6,000 candidates, say to an 800-900 candidates, I think the first round of interviews are comfortably done through bots. Right? I've experienced it, I've seen it. And those who are on this call who've not experienced it, whether you can be a prospective candidate, if you're a technology, if you're a talent acquisition leader, I think you should go and experience it. I think for the first round of interviews, a bot interview is actually more effective, because if you want to evaluate 5 or 6 parameters, 5 or 6 questions, right? Believe me, it's very easy to feed it in and get responses from the prospective candidate who's applying and rate them on where they stand on those 5 questions, rather than leaving it to a very junior recruiter who typically is going to do your first round of interview, right? It's only in the final rounds these candidates actually reach senior people who understand the organization culture and EVP and things like that. But initial screening, the first round of interviews are sometimes compromised, right? And a good bot, a voice-enabled bot, or can actually through a video proctored interview, actually assess 5-6 important criteria and do that first level of screening. So we're talking about living in a world where from a top of the funnel, 3,000-4,000 people who apply, you're coming down to 500-600 people who actually go for their second round of interviews, who are actually cut out for your organization, right? So again, it goes back to the mix of skills and qualities that you actually require to be in your organization to make your organization succeed, and can technology help you do that screening to get you to that level, right? And I've seen it, and I've actually used it as well through multiple tools in the market for our customers, right? And over a period in time, we were able to show a huge reduction in infant attrition as well. Another way in which you can reduce infant attrition by the use of AI, I just thought I'll share, is that there is something that we call POFU, right? Post offer follow-up, right? Now, through technology, there are a lot of interactive platforms, right? And I know a lot of organizations, we at EY, a lot of service, huge, there are some very big technology, IT services organizations. I don't want to take name, but what they do is they give you a platform, post your offer. Once you receive an offer, you can actually engage with a platform that actually gives you a flavor of the culture of that organization, right? So to most employees is that once they accept an offer, till the time they join, there is a dropout that we see of 40-50%. Now, why is that dropout there? That the dropout is there, one is because they don't know what they're getting into when they join, right? People get to know the organization only after they join. And possibly the only way we reduce attrition, we reduce dropouts, is by what we call a post-offer follow-up call that the recruiters make. So if a recruiter calls and keeps following up and ensuring that so-and-so candidate is going to join, most of us feel that is the most effective way. But try it with technology. Try to give them an experience of your culture, of your organization, of your policies, of what an EVP in your organization looks like, by helping them engage with you post the offer until the joining date. Let me tell you, those who engage, that is where you'll actually see a least dropout, right? So there are platforms and tools which helps candidates engage with, in this case, prior to joining, right? So these are different stages of recruiting. We're talking about assessing the top of the funnel. We're talking about bots being used for first level interviews, which are more effective than recruiters in a very fair, unbiased way. And then we are talking for post offer engagements again, right? Where employees get to experience virtually the ecosystem of the customer they're going to join, right? So I just thought I'll throw up some of these ways and means that we've been helping some of our customers bring down their the drop ratio post offer, as well as control attrition by ensuring it's the right set of people who culturally align with your organization, and those who actually can, to those who your EVP resonates, right? I mean, there's a lot of ways in which technology can help you get people who to whom your EVP resonates very well, right? I mean, that's for a deeper discussion and a workshop, but I'm just trying to talk about the art of the possible using technology. Maybe many things of what I said, Alok may have the solution, but if not, there are other similar tools that can actually help improve the experience as well as the final outcome of the kind of people that onboard into an organization purely by the use of good technology. So my only submission to all of you is, the earlier you experience it, the better it is, right? Because before you realize, unfortunately, you have all Gen X and Gen Y people who are actually leading a set of Gen Z people who think very differently, right? So it's very important that we align quicker if you want to remain in the workforce for a longer period in time for all of us. Adapting to technology, again, going back to the same thing. So yeah. So that's about it.
That was very well put. Yeah, that was very well put, and appreciate the detailed response as well as covering the end-to-end option. End-to-end process, not just from the initial engagement, but what can also be done from a post-offer perspective. That was a wonderful, insightful session. I understand. I think we took a few questions from the audience as well. I'll pass over the baton back to Pallavi, who was hosting the session. Pallavi, if you can take over and proceed in the next.
Okay, so yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to sincerely thanks to our esteemed panelists for sharing their valuable insights and expertise. The contribution has been truly enlightening and provided us with a very, very deeper perspective when it comes to the impact of AI, specifically when we talk in terms of recruitment. Really appreciate your time and efforts in making this decision and making this discussion so impactful. Quickly, I would just like to invite my colleague Mayur to take over the next session. Over to you, Mayur.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So thank you, Pallavi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good evening,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second session, the role of AI in reducing unconscious bias in hiring. Let's dive into this critical discussion. I am Mayur, and I'll be your host for this session. Before I deep dive into this discussion, I would like to throw a little light on what we're going to talk about in this particular session. Today, as organizations try to build more diverse, equitable, and inclusive workforces, unconscious bias is in the hiring remains a significant challenge, despite our best intentions to so that the biases don't influence the recruitment decision. But they typically impact everything right from your sourcing till the hiring, till the selection stage. Now, this session typically delves into how AI can be transformative, a transformative force into mitigating these biases and reshaping hiring practices for the better. Through AI-driven tools, companies can standardize resume screenings, ensure better decisions are based on merit rather than subjective factors. These tools can help business leaders to analyze data and identify patterns of inequality, empowering them to take corrective and the right decisions. So in this session, our expert panelists will share their insights on how technology is going to be leveraged to reduce that unconscious bias, the ethical considerations involved, and the future of inclusive hiring. So let me take this opportunity to quickly introduce our esteemed panelists and the moderators for the session who will be facilitating the panelists. We have Mr. Vinod Subramaniam, Managing Director at AMS India. Vinod is a seasoned leader with us. Welcome to the session, and thank you for being here. Vinod is a seasoned leader with us with over 3 decades of experience in talent acquisition and business transformation. As a former CEO at Flexibility by AMS, he also scaled the operations and delivered a cutting-edge RPO solution. We also have then Mr. Arvind J, Global CHRO at Mastix. He is a seasoned HR leader with an extensive experience across India, APAC, Middle East, and USA, having held key roles at DMI, CMS IT Services, Cisco, Wipro, and also Ramco Services. He specializes in talent management, organizational transformation, and building high-tech performance teams, driving innovation and strategic HR initiatives. We have Mr. Rohit Adlakha with us, a visionary HR leader and a board member at Titan Software. He brings close to 3 decades of expertise in digital strategy, AI, and also into cybersecurity. With a strong focus on digital transformation and sustainability, he has held leadership roles at Titan Software, Human Edge, and Wipro. And now, also briefly introducing our moderators for the session today. Himadri Majumdar, who is a co-founder and CTO at Talent Recruit Software. Himadri brings over 20 years of experience in developing scalable, high-performance technology solutions, with a career spanning prominent roles at Arc Document Solutions, PwC, Wipro, Thomson Reuters, and Youth Software System. Himadri is renowned for his innovative approach and leadership. We also have Mr. Jason Lopez with us, President of Global Business at Talent Recruit Software. Jason is a seasoned executive known for driving growth and building high-performance teams. With a proven track record in leading successful turnarounds and streamlining operations at RB Cloud CRM, Jason has also held key leadership roles at Cognify, X, and Connectus Group. Without wasting, so I'll just pass on the baton to Jason to lead this session. Over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Mayor. And hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the role of AI in reducing unconscious bias in hiring. My name is Jason Lopez, and I am the President of Global Business at Talent Recruits, and an AI-powered ATS solution designed to transform hiring processes through intelligent technology. It's truly an honor to moderate this session and explore such a timely and critical topic with all of you. Hiring is one of the most influential processes within any organization. It shapes the culture, drives motivation, and directly impacts the future of the business. However, despite the progress we've made as a society in recognizing the importance of diversity and inclusion, unconscious bias continues to be a significant challenge in recruitment. These biases, often hidden and unintentional, influence decisions at every stage of the hiring process, from sourcing and screening to interviews and onboarding. The good news is that technology, particularly AI, has the potential to address these challenges in a powerful way. AI can help us identify patterns, eliminate bias-prone processes, and enable decisions based on skills, merit, and potential, rather than subconscious preferences. But AI isn't a silver bullet. It must be implemented thoughtfully, ethically, and strategically to truly make an impact. Today, we are very fortunate to have an esteemed panel of experts who will shed light on this important topic. Our discussion is divided into two parts. First, we will establish the existence of unconscious bias in current hiring scenarios, delving into the human elements that influences decision making. Then we will explore how AI can reduce these biases and transform recruitment into fairer, more equitable process. I encourage everyone to actively engage with the panelists, share your questions, insights, and reflections in the Q&A section. This is a collective learning opportunity, and your participation is what makes conversations like this impactful. Without further ado, let's get started. And Binod, I'd like to begin with you, if you don't mind.
Oh.
So from your extensive, first of all, how are you?
Absolutely good.
Excellent.
Thank you, Jason.
So from your extensive experience, what are the most common types of unconscious bias you have observed in recruitment processes?
Thank you, Jason. So I've been a recruiter myself. I mean, my earlier avatar was in the Navy, now come to recruitment by accident. So as a recruiter, today I'm my company AMS actually helps a lot of companies across the world recruit as we take over their entire recruitment end to end, or sometimes a portion of the job in multiple countries. So bias is a very important factor because that has to be understood and mitigated for, right? So let me just list out the various bias that obviously many of you will also agree that it exists. So I'm just listing out in no order of priority. So there is affinity bias that probably happens. I mean, imagine you interviewing a candidate who's got a similar background as you or hobbies as you. There is a tendency that you may like. So that's one bias clearly. There is a confirmation bias. That means there is a candidate who has the same beliefs as you. When you're a hiring manager, I mean, there could be a chance that you will pick him or her over other candidates there. And then, I'm glad that all these biases have names now. So I can list out those names. Then there's a conformity bias and confirmation and a conformity bias. Conformity bias is when probably we are in a group of hiring managers and all of us have a similar thinking, and probably the candidate also has similar this thing. So that means it's a group bias there. So that's another possibility. You can see many times that the panel kind of chooses very similar candidates there. Age and gender bias is, I think, clearly understood. I'm not going on explaining that, but that exists. There is also probably a bias because of surnames, and a name bias, which can actually reveal sometimes ethnicity or a nationality or in India, which region that you come out from, etc. So there could be those bias. There is a halo or a horn bias. That means a very positive trait of a candidate probably makes him or her quite significant. They'll top the chart there. And similarly, a negative trait could actually bring the person down in your this thing. Then there are other bias like bias of beauty, looks, etc. Attribution bias. Attribution bias, I just want to articulate because I also learned it at some point in time. It's a very subconscious bias. Now that I have undergone a training myself, I can talk about it. This is a bias where a particular candidate on a particular interview day behaves in a particular manner, and then you actually think of that person as you actually, instead of thinking that it's only a situational bias, a situational scenario, you can actually judge somebody's character because of that. And I still remember one example I'm giving. I won't name the situation, client or the scenario, but there was a lady. The interview started a little late, and this lady had the child to be picked up because the child actually will come to the will be dropped off the road at some point in time, right? And she was quite hassled that is the interview going to end on time, etc. And the whole time she was distracted, and obviously she didn't get through. And when I went and checked back with this person there, she said, look, I had a child actually to come there, and that's why I was distracted. While it so sometimes you feel that the person is not very interested or etc. whatever. So this is attribution bias, where on that particular day situation, the situation kind of changes your personality. So these are some of the biases that exist, and we want to mitigate and manage, and we want to actually educate people. 8,000 of our recruiters across the world have to know that these kind of biases exist. Only once you know that this exists, that can you mitigate it on there. Thanks, Jason.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that very detailed explanation, also sharing what you have experienced in the past. Just perhaps a quick follow-up question regarding that. I'm just curious to know as well, are there any specific tools or frameworks you use to identify unconscious bias during recruitment audits, if any?
Yeah, so since we work with multiple clients, we utilize or we leverage upon the various set of tools or tech stacks that our clients use. So it's not necessary that as a company we will stick to one. We use multiple this thing. But yeah, I mean, obviously we have our own there, and our scenario of using the tools actually depends on the client's outcomes. So say take an example that you have a client whose brand is very heavy, very good. So you probably put a job description and thousands of resumes will come in. Then probably you want to do a stack ranking. But there could be other clients that whose brand is not so great, and you want to actually pursue candidates. Then you do talent pooling and all of that. So tools and technologies will vary depending on the client's scenario. But yeah, I mean, so many of them. I mean, for every scale of every portion of the recruitment, there are so many tools. I was in one panel yesterday, and somebody said for every gap there is an app situation, right? So there are so many different tools today. Hard to name any, Jason.
Okay. Yeah. And just a continuation on that. Can you share an example where bias impacted hiring outcomes despite the best intentions?
Yeah. So one example, and this person is in our team itself, in our AMS's team. So I'm not taking any client example. I'll just take ours. So we were looking for a technology integrator, whatever, and um, with our own tools, etc. We figured out this person, and he's been in a startup, set up something, and then did not work out. So the resume has got gaps, etc. And it is not a typical resume that probably you will want to see, right? And ultimately got rejected because it never came about there. And thankfully, within our teams, we know about this candidate who was applied, etc. And then we went back and checked, look, where is that chap? So then you figured out, look, he's been eliminated because of this situation. And then we sat down on a feedback internally. Obviously, that person has joined us now. But yeah, the initial angle was reject because of background and what do you call gaps in career, etc. So yeah, so these kind of things happen. So our learning is that, since now that we are recruiting for world's best companies across the world, we should be ourselves very conscious of these kind of bias that humanly is possible, or sometimes even machines can throw up, because that will just not be good for us as a company who wants to be like the top notch in the recruitment fraternity, representing world-class clients, and for our teams there, right? So we kind of continuously manage this with the periodic training. And because of this training only, I was able to list out all these biases myself, and also kind of audit that we do in ensuring that the tools that we have got actually kind of mitigate it there. Back to you, Jason.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think I am very obviously agreeable when you said that we have to be very mindful in terms of how we go about the hiring and making sure that we are fair and that we are not leaning towards any biases when especially doing recruitment, because obviously like what you shared, it will heavily impact the culture and the whole team, right, as a or as a whole. So thank you for sharing that, Vinod. I'll move to Arvind next. Hi, Arvind, how are you?
Hey, hi, Jason. Doing great. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
how do my question to you is, how do organizational culture and leadership practices inadvertently perpetuate biases in hiring decisions?
Yeah, sure, that's a very complex question. I'll try to answer it simply, but thanks for inviting me. And today I learned a lot of, jargons from Vinod, that I know bias exists, but there's so much of, types of bias. It's interesting to know. But yeah, I think today's, if you look at the current workforce, one, there's a challenge of getting good talent. So there's the process itself is, complex, and hence we have so much of technology coming into play to ensure that there is speed in the process. But at the same time, how do we ensure as organizations, we have the right, mechanics in place to avoid biases creeping into the system, right? But I've seen closely, right? I'll maybe give my own examples. One, definitely, there is something called a cultural fit, which all use when we talk to candidates or interview candidates. But that something is definitely where, most companies like to, have a lot of homogeneity in the type of people they get in. You like to have the same kind of people. While we give it a good name, saying it's a cultural fit, that kind of, determines the fact that you're not able to attract a diverse, talent pool. Which in the long run could, eliminate a lot of possibilities for you as an organization in terms of innovation and trying to, grow as a company. So that's something I definitely see where, a lot of companies try to get people of the same, background, vintage, or the comfort they have as one of the, attributes that we know called it out also earlier, right? The other aspect is, when you do a lot of drives, etc., I've seen that we do a lot of referrals, right? And when you do referrals, somewhere, there is a definite bias in terms of the kind of people you are referring. That's when your assessment process really need to be stringent, right? It's good that I know somebody, he worked in my last company, I'm comfortable with him or her, but it's important that, you use a very stringent, assessment tools. That's when you can use a lot of technology where you don't get a lot of personal bias come into the play. But whereas look at data-based aspects like your skills and competencies, which are most easily measurable and more demonstrable behaviors at what you see. Because the reality is, all of us have biases, right? Because what you see me today or when you come into the office, it's not just that day, right? It's about where you've gone to school, what kind of upbringing you had, what kind of companies you work with, right? So a lot of things go, over a period of time to create the bias that you have, even the faith you follow, etc., etc. Right? A lot of things play into mind, and you're human, right? It's normal that you can only control so much. So that is where what the best practices we at least we do is we do a lot of training and awareness, especially in our kind of companies where we also acquire and integrate a lot of multicultural organizations. When we acquire a company, typically we acquire because they're good in what they do, but they're also good because they have a very strong cultural foundation. So when we get in people, the larger organization has to appreciate, right, how these dynamics operate. So one of the things that really, in my mind, contributes a lot is creating a lot of awareness, education, and training to your hiring managers, so that they are conscious about it. That's why we call it unconscious bias, right? Because most of the time you're not aware, self-aware what you do in the interaction that happens. And lastly, technology, I would still say in current, I think the previous session I heard somebody say that they started with a pen and paper. I mean, I'm a similar vintage. I started as a recruiter long back. I'm still a recruiter at heart. Well, I'm moved on to HR and other things in life, but it's important that, today I think we have a lot of assessment tools, even the way you're sourcing your profiles, etc. If you're able to write the right logarithms, you can get the right input, but still there has to be strong audits in the process because fool with a tool is still a fool, right? You need to ensure that the tool is in the safe and the right hands. So I think while you have a tool, it can ease your operation, improve your speed, but the human interface still has to continue so that, you build a strong culture in your organization where you don't let biases creep in and build a very, diverse and, much more vibrant, talent pool. Yeah, Jason, that's from my side. The long answer to a short question, but yeah.
No, thank you for sharing, and we appreciate. And I'm pretty sure all the listeners now appreciated what you just mentioned, and particularly you touch on the culture versus skills, for example, because you're absolutely right. Sometimes the best candidate is in front of us, but then we focus more, for example, on the culture, right, or the preference of the leadership, rather than hiring the best candidate for the job. And so these are the way I think that we can balance which one would be important. But sometimes it's really depends, as we all know, on the as a recruiter myself as well, working with hiring managers is often critical in terms of hiring, which goes to my next question to you, Arvin. So what role do you think hiring managers' perceptions play in influencing hiring outcomes?
Okay. So I think all of us have implicit biases, right? Which I was sharing in the previous context, right? We all come with our own, biases. And, since I had this talk, I was looking at some of the articles. It's interesting that even companies like Amazon, right? They have very strong tools, which they claim, but the kind of data that goes in is what it gives to the output, right? So that's how it works. So apparently they had to scrap their, ATS. So you made an opportunity, Jason, to sell there, right? Because the historic data has always been male data, right? So most of the shortlists they got were male candidates. So that's very interesting, right? Because it somehow didn't pick up the, right, whatever the code to look at candidates across genders. So that's a very interesting, aspect, I would say. And that's very interesting because while we use a tool, it's very important that we realize what is the data that comes in based on the data that's get fed in. The other part is the evaluation, right? Unless you have a very strong process of evaluation, which is defined in the organization. For example, we have, I believe we have a very strong, framework that we use which is fairly, robust at the same time, very, tangible, where you can really assess the, competencies of the, candidates we bring in, because that in some way avoids the perceptions that the typical hiring manager would get in. So that I would say the second thing in terms of how we try to, creeping of perceptions into the entire process, Jason.
Okay, well, thank you. How about hiring managers' biases influence, or sometimes not just hiring, but also what do you think about the retention and team dynamics?
When you have to play it both sides, right? So end of the day, when you work with hiring managers, they're also accountable for their project or what they do as an outcome, right? So you need to give some
Right.
play when they bring in their team members. But I think I would still strongly recommend, not to purely go and build a very homogeneous team, but definitely build a kind of a diverse team so that the best of people come in, the best of talent gets in, and we are able to have a lot more productive and high performance teams. But that narrative has to be somewhere controlled. That's where the talent team or the HR team plays an active role, where they look at these elements and try to, while they give that sense of empowerment to the hiring managers, at the same time
Right.
have some kind of, influence, I wouldn't say control, in terms of the kind of talent they're bringing in, because they also are responsible for outcomes. It typically happens in startups. There's a short runway, you have an investment coming in, you want to show results. So they try to bring in people they worked in the past or they're comfortable with. But at the same time, how do you, bring in a talent that is little divergent and diverse is also important. That's when I think using tools like what you just called out, and also the assessment process really plays a role in, driving that kind of a behavior.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks so much for that, Arvind. So moving on, and I'd like to perhaps ask the next question to Rohit. Rohit, how are you?
Absolutely great, Jason, and congratulations to you and the entire Talent Recruit team on a decade of stellar performance.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'll jump in straight to ask you the first question. From a CXO's perspective, what are the long-term impacts of unconscious bias on workforce diversity and innovation?
As humans, we always try and look at a reflection of our own and other people. And that happens in hiring also, where unconsciously we try and hire people who have a similar wavelength, similar way of talking, similar knowledge levels, and you end up hiring replicas of your own. And as a corollary of that, you get a very homogeneous team which thinks alike, but there is not too much diversity in terms of thought and innovation. And studies show that diverse teams across multiple parameters of diversity actually perform upwards of 35% more in any business parameter that you take than teams which are more common or homogeneous in nature. The second thing is that if you do end up hiring diverse and heterogeneous teams, the behavior of humans carries on in different forms. Now, in a formal meeting, like perhaps a chat like this, people may still be upright, very courteous to each other. But the moment you start getting into informal sessions, a coffee chat or even having lunch, you realize that people start mingling with other people who are from perhaps similar backgrounds. So, whether it's based on language or seniority or even gender in some matters. So the challenge is that even if you end up hiring heterogeneous teams, the behavior of humans, behavior of individuals may isolate people, and some people may feel a little left out, and that may impact, attrition, which is especially big in the tech sector. The third thing is that if you don't have a diverse enough team which has an innovation of culture, which does has this entire inclusive nature, it could become a reputational challenge also in terms of onboarding the right set of talent. And if you look at Glassdoor reviews, which are very popular, which people look at multiple parameters before they join a company. So your reputation as a brand, your employability, your retention capability take a beating. And in a lot of extreme cases, you actually may come under compliance challenges. You may come under legal disputes if fair employment, fair opportunity for onboarding is not provided. So in my view, in summary, heterogeneous team, diverse set of thinking with an overall overarching umbrella of culture, if it's that able to bind these multiple chains of thought towards a common vision for the company is, I think, the best way.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's a very detailed answer to that question. Appreciate that. And I think what struck me the most is when you said that, we tend to hire replicas of our own, of your own, because I think as a hiring manager, I'm also very guilty of that. When you meet someone and then your expectation is always pretty much you looking at the mirror, right? Which sometimes you're right. And hence the reason why in my opinion, when we do hire someone, it's always good to have few rounds of senior executives and to avoid those biases and making sure that we are forming a strong team with from diverse background, different set of skill set and mentality as well. However, have you encountered resistance in acknowledging unconscious bias within leadership teams? If yes, how was it addressed?
I think all of us come with unconscious and subconscious biases, and we may not realize it. And the biggest challenge is awareness. So, what I've found useful is the 3E principle. The first E is education, the second E is enablement, and then beyond that, the third E is enforcement. So, it's a more gentle approach before you start enforcing it in terms of policies. But I feel that if you bring about awareness sessions, you have open houses where people actually understand what does diversity and inclusion mean, how do you remove these biases, and really help them through policies and tools and show them data. A lot of people are very logical and data driven. So the moment you start showing them diverse teams versus homogeneous teams, mixed set of people from different ethnicities versus people coming in from one, you know, state or one country itself, the moment you start playing that data back to them, I think people are very, very amenable to understand. But if you ask me personally, this culture has to be driven top down. You can't work in isolation. So the company culture, right from the founders to the CEO downwards to the last level in terms of employment, each one of them has to feel this in terms of equality and making sure we have multiple people trying to do a decision. So whether it's a maker checker or a group discussion before any critical decision is taken, but this culture has to be driven top down where even the senior leaders feel it. And this inclusive nature, this helping nature, this looking at how we can learn from each other nature is something that if you start imbibing, then your entire organization becomes one super microorganism as one cohesive unit, even though each one of them may have different backgrounds, different attributes, and different capabilities.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Prohit. And I think just to follow up question on that one. Is there any, perhaps you can share any successful approach or perhaps framework that you have done for fostering accountability among senior leadership to address these biases that you have encountered?
One is we used to have all hands meet, where we used to call all people into a large conference room physically and virtually, where you allow them to mingle across different backgrounds, diverse set of people from different locations. And it used to be a great bonding. We used to actually do this once every quarter. And we found it extremely effective because the moment people start dealing in a human to human level, rather than a company employee to a company employee level, all these barriers actually break down. And then there is a great sense of fostering camaraderie and also looking at exchanging and learning from, each other. Once those fences are broken and that level of communication goes deep, then when you give feedback in terms of any miscommunication in terms of any biases, people are much more amenable and they take it in the right spirit. The challenge is that we take employees as resources. We end up talking to them perhaps once in 3 months or once in 6 months or once a year, depending on when the appraisal cycle runs. And as a result, they keep distancing themselves from each other. And you feel very individualistic, very alone in your employability. So I feel getting them all together through coffees, through all hearts meet, all hands meet, and making sure that structured feedback and informal feedback given, which is timely, will help correct this behavior.
Well, thank you. As a person who loves playing sport, and I completely agree the importance of camaraderie and teamwork. Bringing pretty much all the team members on the same page is very, very critical in building a highly successful team. And yeah, thanks for sharing that. Well, lastly, thank you again to all our panelists, Vinod, Arvind, and Rohit. Really appreciate your time and sharing your thoughts and your insights regarding this topic. And right now, I'll move it back the floor back to Mayur.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. So thank you for the sharing the enriching experience, Vinod and Rohit. I believe Arvind has left the webinar. So I'll pass on the waiting to Himadri, wherein you can carry on with the questions. I believe you have certain set of questions which you want to ask. Over to you, Himadri.
Okay, thank you, Mohit. So good evening, Rohit, and good evening, Vinod. So yes, so it was a very enlightening session with you, Rohit and Vinod, to know that this level of biases exist in our existing traditional hiring process, and these biases are getting mitigated, and this is one of the biggest concern or challenges in the current days of recruitment. But that while I was thinking, because I am I'm co-founder and CTO for Talent Recruit. I am responsible for building these AI ML tools. So now the inherent problem of AI ML tools is that AI ML tools, they also get biased based on the historical data. And as Arvind says, no, so that like whatever data you feed into the system, its output is same. I mean, they are basically neural network. They think like human. I mean, human can get biased, and because those neural networks are made in the same principle, they also get biased. So my question to you, Rohit, so this is very, I mean, I was thinking that you have already designed many traditional methods to get rid of these biases. But when you are advocating, when you are advocating a AI tool to some board or some company's leadership, how do you convince them, or how do you make sure that, or how do you make them believe that the AI tool you are advocating will be transparent and ethical, and it will not have bias? And how do you make them convince into that? You know.
So thanks, Himadri. Multiple points, from my side on this topic. The first is that AI has to be an all-pervasive decision and implementation across the organization, not just at a CXO level.
Yes.
Now, CXO may decide to implement an AI or a Gen AI tool based on peer pressure, based on market dynamics, based on any pressures of getting hyper efficiency. But if they clearly define that what is the use case, who all will get impacted, what's the business value that will get delivered, and what's the participation required from the larger organization, I think that's the first step for you to ensure a successful implementation. The second is that you must look at AI tools which are ethical, which are transparent and auditable. And I remember when I was working for Wipro and leading their AI business, we had a platform called Homes, and we ended up putting a master bot called Bot Govern to actually look at what tasks each of the other bots are doing. Are they performing what they're supposed to do in terms of execution? Are they looking at the right data sets? Are they by any chance becoming rogue bots, and you're moving the data outside the enterprise, which may be very critical in terms of PI, personal identifiable information.
Yeah.
So this bot govern, which is the master bot, was a great idea. The second thing in applications like KYC, know your customer, we realized that the AI was giving fantastic efficiency, in terms of smart OCR, in terms of smart processing of documents. But we always used to have a maker checker, where the checker used to be a human, and those humans also were from different backgrounds, not just a fixed team itself, which ensured that whatever the AI is supposed to do, you're able to do it. The third thing is that I believe that we have to be very clear on the regulatory compliances. So if you look at, for example, US has CCPA, California Consumer Protection Act, I think. We, of course, in India, we have DPDP now, which is, your digital data protection. So if you start following them, not just as a policy and governance, but also in spirit, because they give you a lot of guardrails, they give you a lot of guidelines, then at least through education, through enforcement, you're able to ensure that Gen AI is able to manage the entire organization rather than looking at it in pockets and it not behaving the way it should actually be. So these are some of the guardrails that we've been able to put in the past.
Okay, so now, so Rohit, as you mentioned, so these are actually governing the existing AI. That's actually want to govern the existing AI around it. I mean, you want to monitor it, you want to put a human onto it, you want to have a bot of bot. So those kind of governance you want to put. So
Correct.
So do you think that this governance can be part of that the AI tool itself, or it can redefine the unbiased hiring? Some AI tool could be like that we don't need to monitor it, and then in future, I mean, in the future, can those kind of things come in technology space? Those kind of AI can come, they can govern themselves. Is that possible, or we need to always put somebody from outside to govern our AI model?
Currently, the level of technology that we're in, and especially if I look at large language models, which have become very prevalent in the last 2 years, they are learning from human experiences, which is getting codified, which is getting digitized, and then AI starts making decisions mimicking the human itself. But we still need the human involvement to make sure that it is following the ethical principles that the human race has set up. I think it is still some time away where you have technology which is built by technology, which is innovating by technology and through technology, and there is no human intervention itself. And we keep seeing sci-fi movies 10 years, 15 years, 20 years in the future where this is actually possible. But if you ask me, there is a difference between human knowledge, which can be digitized, and then LLMs or AI can learn from it. And then there are human experiences, especially in terms of ethical principles, the human nature, emotions, which are a little hazy and can't be codified, which is where humans will continue to have an edge over machines and perhaps keep teaching them. But in the immediate future, I don't see independent technology wearing off on its own.
That's right. So Rohit, thank you very much. So that means that we are still in the race. I mean, these robots are not able to take on us, at least in near future. And happy to know that
humans still have a chance.
Happy to know that, Rohit. Thank you very much for your insights onto it. So now my next question is to Vinod. So Vinod, as I know that you do a lot of recruitment, and then you do traditional recruitment, and you use AI-driven tool also. So how your AI tool complements your traditional recruitment? Or you think that it's 50-50, or you only 20%? I mean, I would like to know more about how your AI tool complements your traditional recruitment process.
So Himadri, like I said, we are a company that helps recruit for multiple companies. So every the tech stack that we use in different companies are very different there. And most of my clients are global large MNCs and usually Fortune 500 variety, who are across multiple geographies. So, and many of them have got huge buying power to ensure that they have got a good tech stack across various AI products there. So since this discussion is more on unconscious bias, I will just restrict the discussion to the tools that actually help mitigate unconscious bias. Okay. And if you want details of the tools, that we utilize or know of, there is, we have this thing called AMS verified. So it's a getamsverified.com. If you go there, you will get, you will get access to a variety of, our study on various tools. So it's like something like IMDb on movies, right? You get a ranking across various movies, etc. So we've got something like that across various tools there. I'm happy to note, obviously, Talent Recruit is also there, and we also use Talent Recruit as one of our ATS here in India. But there is a host of tools there. But I'll just coming back to the question. I'll come to the tools there. So there are tools who actually help you in objective decision making. I mean, by using algorithms that are trained to focus on skills and experience rather than any subjectivity there. So basically, you tend to standardize criteria across selections there. Then there are also tools that help you eliminate the identifiers. So you can anonymize candidate details like name, age, gender, etc. Tools can actually go in, erase all of that so that that does not come in the search criteria. And then therefore, these kind of biases kind of go off. So then the shortlist that comes in stack ranking are without the bias, and then the recruiter can then further analyze that. So those kind of things are there. There are also tools that actually give you scoring across the various parameters. And since it is data driven and insight led, there is that bit. Also, there are advanced AI systems that actually can highlight patterns today on the past hiring trends. So, you can say, look, this particular, there is a lot of similar type of hiring in that hiring manager category. These kind of examples they can do. And then we can actually tune the AI to continuously learn. Since I don't, our company is not necessarily into all of these bots. We work with multiple vendors. So our job is to give our partners this feedback there. So that's how these things happen. But, you can get more details on the kind of tools and how they stack up and what do they do, etc. on AMS verified.
Thank you, Vinod. But I am more curious a little bit. So, do you have any example of specific AI tool that reduces bias in affection, that reduces bias? Any specific tool that reduces bias, or you found it very useful for reducing biasness in selection?
See, it will be unfair for me to name one because we represent a host of tools there, right? So please don't put me in a spot by asking me to name one or two.
Yeah, that's
so
fine.
that's why I said, you can go to AMS Verified and deal with that, because like I told you, we've got multiple clients across, and depending on the hiring objectives of that particular client, the tech stack that we use will be very different. Yeah. So most of the tools, so I can tell you about one of the FMCG clients that uses video interview and facial expressions to actually figure out if the and they are hiring for all the sales people. They will the tool comes out and tells using the facial expressions that if this person will succeed or not. Example. Okay. Then there are tools that actually we know that we want to bring in diversity, right? So the tools actually looks for diversity, this thing, and then prompts brings about candidates that are actually diverse from the existing team size. So there are different tools with different objectives. Our objective in the whole thing is to ensure that we bring in the right tools that actually help us mitigate this bias, and we do periodic audits on them, so that for us, the client experience using these tools, which ultimately we are the ones who are running, is seamless and does not have too much of bias. It is ultimately, you cannot say it's perfect. I mean, we are still scratching the surface as far as AI is concerned. And the fact is, there are so many tools today across the entire spectrum for stack ranking, for assessment, for throwing out what kind of questions should you ask the a candidate of a particular job description. So those types. So the variety of tools will have different types of bias coming in, right? But I'll say probably go and look into AMS Verified. It may just help. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to mention my experience with AMS UK team. So UK team. So when we basically implemented talent recruit for UK, for AMS, and the UK team wanted us to prove that our talent recruit model is not biased. And
Correct.
we have built a governance tool for AMS UK team where they can, you can put a sample resume. Suppose you want to put 20 resume, and then you can see the output. And we have created a tool that tool analyzes that output and sees that on 6 parameters like age, ethnicity, age, on those 6 parameters, it is not tilted. It is not tilted, and it analyzes that it is not biased. So basically, whatever the input is going, we have to show, we have to produce a report, and that report we are supposed to send every month to UK team so that they know that, okay, these are the output of our model, and these outputs are not biased. So those kind of governance tools we have used, because I know that AMS is very, very particular about biases. That's why I'm asking.
Because we represent many of our clients, right? Absolutely, Himadri. So, all the guys on verified, all the, providers on verified will have to go through this thing, because we are very conscious that bias cannot creep in. And then as long as you recognize it as a service provider, or any service provider recognizes it, I am sure there will be the steps that they will take to continuously manage any bias that may creep in. So it's a standard criteria for us.
And that's a very good thing for us, because our model is now regularly monitored for biasness, at least on those 6 parameters.
Absolutely.
So that's, thank you very much. That's all from my side, Vinod and Rohit. So thank you very much for your insights. I'll now give it back to Mayur. Mayur, can you please continue from here?
So thank you, Madrida, and thank you to the panelists. A big thank you for the sharing that expertise and insights during the session. Honestly grateful for that. Now, I would just need a little extended support from Vinod and Rohit. We have a couple of questions since we have anyways overshot. There are certain questions from the audience which I would just pass on to you, wherein I would need your support to answer them. Just give me a second, please. So we have the first question, which is from somebody. So this is to you, Vinod. Wherein the question is: do you believe there is a significant difference in how AI impacts recruitment for large enterprises versus small and versus the mid size? I mean, large, mid, and small. So does the AI have different impacts on recruitment for all the 3 categories?
See, the thing is, probably the buying power of the company can alter in what kind of vendors they partner with. I mean, in that way, there could be. Or it could be also that, there are many ways to look at it. The data points, take an example that there is an AI to match the internal job applicants against the job, this thing. So the data pool that a large company will have internally will be of a large scale, this thing, rather than a small company having a data. And the ability to also take an example that, you want access to multiple external data insights. So somebody will, with a higher buying power, we may have that difference. So it is those kind of things. But I think ultimately, if the recruiting team is conscious, look, I am going to use this tool for this particular purpose, and this is the output that I'm going to get, and post that I'm going to be utilizing my own judgment, it kind of what do you call, mitigates it there. So answer is yes and no in some form, but I'm what I'm very conscious is that it's a continuously evolving industry, very fast, very quickly, that the scenarios will all change in some particular point in time. Instead of having probably small tools that will solve smaller problems in a particular portion of the life cycle, probably you may have some integration capabilities across, and then you will find vendors who can aggregate all of this and then kind of provide that. So in that way, there could be a difference between a large company and a small company.
Thank you. Honestly, I mean, I find it a true logic also. Yes, what you're saying is right. Thank you for that. I hope, Somadeep, you have got a fair answer to what the ask was. Sorry. Then I have another question for you, Rohit. AI helps in. So the question is, AI. This is from Sahana Shetty. AI helps in filtering candidates without bias, but human intervention is still necessary to ensure that the AI does not overlook employment gaps or introduce unintended biases. How can we work hand in hand with technology in these case scenarios?
So I'll just step back and tell you how AI, especially Gen AI, is maturing, and then I'll try and answer this question. The first is that AI has become what we call multimodal, and they are going beyond text, in terms of a profile or a resume, to actually both audio and video. So what happens is that when GenAI starts evaluating a candidate from a multimodal experience, at that time, you're able to look at the candidate comprehensively in terms of, for example, body language, in terms of matching the person in the resume to the actual person who's coming in for the interview. All that is possible. So in my view, AI is becoming fairly advanced, and it can go beyond the traditional sorting of profiles that we have been using, automation AI for. The second piece is, uh, while a lot of the large scale repetitive tasks can be given to AI, but for example, deciding the salary of a candidate, all things being equal in terms of qualification, which candidate should we choose? Those critical decisions, in my view, should still be done by the human. And then you go ahead and do the onboarding of a candidate into a company, rather than just having automated job offers, automated reminders, automated welcomes. The human touch of welcoming someone, pre-joining, post-joining, getting them accustomed as a mentor when someone, comes on board. Those cases, humans, in my view, should still be involved. But where GenAI can help humans more is even in training these models, in terms of training this through data more and more. And the challenge is that humans have only limited knowledge, limited acumen. So AI is very good in what we call synthetic data generation, where they have a larger corpus of data to train so that the accuracy is much higher and the level of bias, significantly comes down. But in the foreseeable future, I think both humans and AI have to work hand in hand to make sure that the entire talent lifecycle is managed effectively.
Sure. Thanks, Rohit. Even I believe in that it has to work in tandem. One cannot operate without the other, and that is how in recruitment, at least, I believe it should be done. So thank you so much for your insights, Vinod and Rohit. Now we have come to the end of the session. Thank you for sharing such insights, and also the expertise that you have in the industry, which will actually, we have a lot of takeaways in terms of how the AI is functioning. That is a big thing which I actually came to know from Rohit, and also the biases. Honestly, that was something new for me also, that the kind of biases that you actually spoke about was something really fascinating. So that will bring me to the end of session. Alok sir, would you like to add something, or
So I take this opportunity to thank you very much, Vinod and Rohit, and Himadri and Jason, for such an insightful session. I've been receiving a lot of messages. We've been from a lot of people. This session is going amazing. And also, you have been part of this discussion and celebration for us as we completed for 10 years. So we truly appreciate giving us some time. I know Rohit has another sessions elsewhere, and he has given us another priority to be there, and he's been here for a longer time. And also for the audience who have been still there, and of course this has gone a little extended session. A lot of questions were there. So good. Thank you very much for your active participation. We'll keep on bringing leaders from the industry to give more insights about the industry and how the hiring process across the world taking shape. So thank you very much, everyone.